Hi everyone, happy Saturday. So we are on, I don't even know what day of March Madness it is, but today we're going to be talking about the single leg kick and the double leg kick. And before we get started, I just want to make a little bit of an announcement. I'm going to be doing a giveaway to kind of mark the middle of our March Madness challenge. So if you want to hear details of how to and what the criteria is for that for this giveaway, make sure that you're subscribed to my newsletter. You can go to quietbodies.com, and that's where I will be sending out the criteria in tomorrow night's newsletter, along with the links for next week's tutorials, and that will go live on my social media. So what's the prize going to be, you might be wondering. So for this giveaway, I'm going to be giving away either a virtual private session for you or you and three of your friends. So super fun to connect in real time and move in real time together. So I'm super excited about that. All right, so let's talk about single leg kick and double leg kick. I said this on my Instagram post today, but this kind of marks a spot in the workout where things start to get more complicated. We start to work on multiple things at the same time. You're always incorporating your upper body with your lower body, but I think once you start to move backwards, it's not in our natural capability as humans. We live in a very forward world. So these are two very challenging exercises. And what I want to say before we get started on them is, if they feel like they're too complicated for you right now, number one, they're a little bit simpler than you think. And you might need to break things down, but just don't think they're not off the table for you forever. So when we go through single leg kick, I like to give my clients in my group class and also in the Anonymous Pilates Club kind of a menu so you can decide what your body needs that day. So for instance, if you're feeling a lot of gripping in your lower back in the swan dive, you might choose to do the first variation or the first progression that I'm going to show you today. And if you're feeling really great, your back isn't gripping, you feel very open through the chest and shoulders, you might want to take the last progression. Or if you're someone like me who really struggles with their posture, I have very forward rounded shoulders. So I really like option number 2 because it helps me strengthen my mid-thoracic spine and it helps me with all my postural muscles. Okay, so let's start off with single leg kick. Let's talk about what the goals are, and then we will look at those 3 different options. So we're going to work our upper back in extension just like we did in swan dive. And also like in swan dive, we're going to be working our hips in extension. So your legs are lifting up off the ground, which is going to create length through our hip flexors. It's going to balance out all that hip flexion that we do, all the sitting that we do, climbing stairs, if you like to cycle, all of that stuff. It really balances out our natural mechanics as humans. And then it's also going to strengthen the glutes and the hamstrings. So really great exercise. There's some chest opening. So let's go. Let's watch the exercise and go through it. And then, as always, if you have questions, everyone, feel free to pop them in the chat. Feel free to send a wave. It's always nice to see that you're here. I hope you're all well. So here we go. So after swan, you've gone back, you've stretched out your lower back, you've done child's pose, you've checked in with yourself. How are you feeling? And then you're going to decide where to go from there. Okay. So first variation, hands underneath forehead. Your pubic bone pushing into the floor is again going to be your best friend. The feet are now parallel, a little bit apart. Okay, and then let's start the exercise. I'm going to keep my head down for the first bit, and you're going to bend the knee and do a little kick, kick, and then switch kick, kick. You can take this tempo fast or slow, and the breath is just fluid. Okay, then second variation, I'm just going to pause it here. You're propping yourself up so that your elbows are forward of your shoulders. Okay, I like to think about keeping the lower part of my rib cage down for this one and then bending backwards from there. So you'll feel it in those, again, upper spinal extensors. And then the choreography is exactly the same. Okay, so just nice, quick, brisk kicks. Okay, you're always wanting to pull the heel into your seat. And then the final variation, and this is the most traditional one, is elbows right underneath your shoulders. And again, you follow the same choreography. So you'll be the most susceptible to gripping in your lower back in this variation. This is great for those that enjoy that stretch for the front of their bodies. Okay, and then that's basically it. You can see I get a lot of foot cramps when I do that. So I guess basically my biggest tip for you, I'm going to give you two tips, is anchor yourself. If you start to feel yourself rocking around on the mat in this one, you've absolutely lost your stability. So remember, whatever is touching the floor is your anchor point. So what our anchor points are here is your pubic bone pushing into the floor, and then your forearms pushing down into the floor and almost pull yourself forward as if you wanted to slide forward on your mat. That's my two biggest points. Tick just came over to sit next to me. For those of you who haven't met me before, I have a little border collie named Tick. So now the second thing that I want to point out is just take a peek at my legs. So my knees are hovering off of the ground. That is going to increase the stretch in your quads. So it depends on the flexibility that you have in your quads. If you saw me do this 2 years ago, I had to keep my knees on the floor because I had a knee injury and I didn't have this mobility. So it's not necessary that the knees are hovering. If it's causing you to grip in your lower back, you know that you've gone too far and you can keep your knees down. But those legs are active. This is a full body exercise. There's a lot of stuff working here, okay? All right, I'm gonna bring it back to the intro screen somehow and then set up for the next exercise. I don't see any questions coming in, so we'll move on to the double leg kick. And basically now we're just taking this one step further. Now, choreography gets complicated here. So I want you to think about this exercise being a pattern. It's your upper body, so you're doing a back bend, and then you're doing legs, okay? You're not doing them both at the same time. And if you find yourself kicking and lifting your chest up at the same time, that's totally fine. Just lower yourself back down, take a rest, regroup, and then continue. This exercise is worth the time spent on understanding the choreography and the bits and pieces, and then you start to work on the form, okay? So let me just pull up the exercise, and then goal-wise, you're the same goals as you had for the other ones, but now you have just a bit more of an added opening of the chest, expansion of the chest and shoulders. And just know that my tips for this is not an exhaustive list. I have a ton of tips for specific tips if you have the lack of shoulder mobility. So, you know, if you come to a class of mine, or if you are a subscriber to the APC and you need a little bit more help on how, if you can't grab your hands behind your back, shoot me a message and I'm more than happy to help you out there. Okay, so let's go. We're going to bring up the exercise. Now you start laying down on your back, and you'll notice that I'm gonna just pause here. You notice that I kind of bounced my hands up my back. So I usually start people at first with their hands at the small of their back, and then it's not an important detail, but the further you slide your hands up your back, the more of a stretch you're gonna get. So some may experience a stretch bringing their elbows down towards the floor like mine are there, okay? So that's just an extra bonus detail, not one to trip you up, but it's just a little bit of a fun fact there. That's why our elbows are down to the floor. It stretches our shoulders, okay? So feet begin together. You're gonna push your pubic bone down into the floor. That is your anchor point. You're gonna lift the legs up, keeping the feet together. I'm gonna bend the knees and do 3 kicks, and then you're gonna separate the feet. Okay, you clasp one hand with the other, and then you're gonna straighten the arms up and back as you lift your chest. Now really rolling the shoulders and chest open. Okay, then you're gonna turn your head to the other side, elbows to the floor, feet together, kick 3, 2, 1, straighten the legs, lift the chest. So the first thing I see people do when they learn this exercise is they don't bring their feet together when they start to kick them. Okay, so squeeze your feet together when you kick, and you'll have more control. Another thing that I commonly see is people's hip crease come off. Oh, yeah. So this is another variation. If you cannot clasp your hands behind you, sometimes I'll do this with my clients that have a bit more sensitive shoulders. So you can just keep those arms straight beside you. More than fine. And then that way you can still enjoy the benefits of this exercise. Okay. And then after you've done that, of course, you're going to want to sit back into a child's pose. And that was a little bit more reps than what I would typically do in a workout. I would usually do 3 sets, alternating sides. So you've done 6 in total, right, left, and that is plenty, you know, and take this at a tempo that you feel makes sense to you. So I'm just going to bring this back to the start, and then we will talk a little bit more about clarity through this. Okay, so elbows are to the floor to stretch the shoulders. Okay, feet together, you do 3 kicks, and that is a hamstring curl. So again, you're stretching your quads and contracting the back of the legs. All right, then you're gonna reach your legs along, like in your swan dive. You lift your chest up, you turn your head, and you place the head down. Hi, Jody. Thank you for the wave. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so my friends, now look at my pelvis, and do you notice how there's no light between my hips and the floor? That's really important. So commonly what I'll see is people kind of lift their butt up into the ceiling, and there'll actually be like space between the hip bones and the ground. So really making sure that that doesn't happen. That pubic bone must stay pressed down into the floor the whole time. That's my biggest tip with this one, is maintain the pelvis connection and just nail the choreography, and then you work on the details from there, because there is a lot going on. So I hope that's helpful. I think with these exercises, with these 2 exercises, it's even just helpful to just watch them when you're not in your workout, and then you can visualize better when you go to your mat what these exercises looked like. So keep referring back to especially this tutorial, because this is a more complicated and intricate part of the mat sequence, but I think that it is never one to be left out. And for my teachers out there that are watching, don't think that this is off the table for your clients forever. Especially this past year in the pandemic, I have been absolutely inspired and astounded by the progress that my clients have made. And maybe they didn't start with single leg kick. Maybe we did a lot of pre-Pilates before we got into these exercises, but you'd be surprised the capability of the human body if when you work with it properly and if you work with the biomechanics. So this is a great way to challenge our Pilates practice with these more complicated exercises, right? We don't add in more load, more weights, more reps in Pilates. We add in more intricacies, more choreography, more of that mind-body element. And this is the first example, in my opinion, that it shows up in our mat sequence. So thank you all for joining me. So again, for those of you who may be tuned in a little bit later, I'm going to be doing a giveaway just to mark the halfway point. So I will post it on all my social channels. I'll post it on Facebook and on Instagram, but the best way that you can learn what the criteria is to win this giveaway is to be subscribed to my newsletter, because then you're for sure not going to miss out, whereas Facebook and Instagram tend to, the algorithms can get strange, and sometimes you'll miss the post or you will see it 3 days later. So subscribe to my newsletter if you're not already there, quietbodies.com. You scroll down to the bottom and there'll be a little input box. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, all the things. I hope this was a helpful tutorial, and I will see you all back here on Monday. What are we doing on Monday? Anyways, it'll be a surprise. I completely forget. I think it's the neck pull. It's the neck pull. So that's a good one. That's a good one to practice. Bye, everyone.